Time is just gone 8:57 a.m. as we continue this morning, and it's the time of the week. Crime Talk, our weekly edition with eThekwini Secure, joined by Chairperson of eThekwini Secure, Imtiaz Syed. Imtiaz, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Inayat. Jazakallah for having me.
Yes, Imtiaz, we've just come out of Women's Day, and we know August still remains Women's Month, but we're not looks
Absolutely.
at it on a community level, and I'm sure with eThekwini Secure, there are just so many issues that you are addressing. And we normally talk about crime and we talk about CPFs and those type of things, but we sometimes tend to forget and look at some of the issues as far as women are concerned. And I'm sure there's a lot that you and eThekwini Secure have been exposed to with regard to women.
No, absolutely. And I think we don't really recognize it, but ultimately we deal with women issues throughout the entire year. And I think it's not apt for us to actually put it into a month and say we should be dealing with it only in this month. But I think more so it's about the recognition we need to give to women impartially during this month that speaks to it. Now, coming into women's issues, we must understand over and above the need for safety, security, clothing, and food, and all of that, that ultimately at some point needs to be provided in certain instances and not in all the instances. So you can't paint everyone at the same brush. But we need to understand the issue of um, uh, volunteering in terms of victimization. So how do we get to a point of victimization, gender-based violence, and all of these little things? Because relationships don't start out that way. It starts in a very nice space, and eventually, sometimes radically and sometimes over a very long transition period, leads into a situation where it's abnormal and it's not normal for people to live in that situation.
Well, certainly, and I think as you mentioned, sometimes voluntarily, but at the end of the day, we hear that all is not rosy, and I'm sure even on a societal level, on a community level as well, we find that when you're talking about victimization, for instance, and this is an area that one needs to think about very, very carefully, where sometimes we think it's a one-way street, but there are a lot more underlying issues that are playing out as well.
Absolutely. I mean, when it comes down to, I'm speaking specifically about family based issues, right? Now, when we speak to it, we must understand that everyone that constitutes a family needs to have balance in terms of what they get from each other because it's basically communal living if you take out the aspect of relationship. Now, in that, and we will attest to this to say that how many times have we heard our mothers, our aunts, our sisters saying, no, it's okay, I will do it. As soon as you hear that, that's a trigger to say that that is something that that person doesn't actually want to do, but based on keeping peace and based on doing things, they're saying, no, it's okay, I will do it. And that is the intersection by which we turn volunteering into victimization. That is the intersection. When someone does something for someone else unwillingly, we then volunteer for it originally, but then it becomes the norm. But you did it last month. Why won't you do it this month? Why won't you do this? Why won't you do that? And then it becomes obligatory. And now it becomes victimization. So we need to very, very clearly identify what are those markers that speak to those things. And we need to start empowering women to say no. When there is something that gives you at any point in your life unhappiness, no matter what it is, whether it's cooking a meal, whether it's whatever, for whatever reason, you might be sick, you might be unwell, whatever it is, you need to at some point say, with respect, I can't do this today. I can't entertain the family. My cousin shouldn't come over. Whatever it is that gives you unhappiness, you should learn to say no, and I'm not going to do it. And this has always been a trait of men, I think. Men generally do that as a norm. When they do whatever they want to do when they want to do it. And we hear that all the time. You men, you do things, whatever you want to do, you do it. What you don't want to do, you don't do it. You don't pick up your socks, you don't whatever. But we're infringing on other people's rights when we as men do these things. So there's quite a lot of learning in terms of family values and family living that we need to start learning about respecting each other and about bringing each other together. It's not about fighting and arguing all the time. It's about understanding and bringing people closer together.
But also, because the scary part is with this type of victimization that you speak of, a lot of it is hidden. There's a lot that doesn't come up in
Absolutely.
the open that we don't know about.
The stigma that society places on these things. And we find this quite often where you look at a person, and generally it's the man who's the aggressor in most situations, and it's become a norm for this to happen. We tend to start inculcating this in our youth as well, where they tend to learn how to believe, or they believe they know how to treat women, when in fact women don't really show their emotion when things are happening to them, based on stigma. I'm not going to tell anyone, because what would the whole world think? I'm saying, and we are saying, that we as family units need to understand each other. Every single home. There's not a single home that can tell me that they don't have issues. Yes, on the outside of things, everything looks nice and it's rosy and everyone's admirable and all of that happens. But ultimately, we end up with problems, right? How we deal with these problems are the most important thing. Mutual respect for each other, irrespective of race. All of these little things constitutes happy family living. And we need to start understanding that there needs to be balance in how we relate to each other. I mean, ultimately, it's about family. I mean, a mom that stays at home, right? And we speak to this by saying a mother that stays at home, she doesn't bring in the bread. Now, if the husband becomes the aggressor because he brings in the bread, then there's an injustice, because there's no recognition for the work that she puts in to keep that family alive and keep that home running per se. So therefore, all of those understandings needs to balance out in terms of contraring what I do for you in comparison to what you do for me. And if we need to start tabling these things in terms of partnership relationships. So if we're reaching a stage in our relationship where everything is a problem, we need to start tabling, what do I do to contribute towards this family, and what do you do to contribute towards this family? And let us make it known that we all have our space and we all need to do what we need to do in order to start moving forward.
Well, just an area that needs a lot more discussion. I don't think we are doing justice to what we have been
Absolutely,
talking
man.
about in the last few minutes. So hopefully, at some point in time, we will visit this again. But for now, Jazakallah as always for your time. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Imtiaz Syed with us, eThekwini secure, and with that, we're heading shortly for the news. Jed would be standing by.